Good morning, gamers. Today we're going to talk about the Druid. The Druid is, of course, everybody's favorite animal shape-shifting character class, nature priest, tree hugger, all around animal-loving, plant-loving, balance of nature type person. So the Druid originally in BECME, or boxed set D&D, was something that a cleric could become at ninth level. So a druid in box set D&D back in the day would spend their first 8 levels as a cleric. But with the orange spined hardbacks, with 1E, with advanced Dungeons and Dragons, the druid just started as a druid right out of the gate at first level, and that is the approach that Old School Essentials has taken. So druids are important because they provide another healer class option. Clerics can heal, druids can heal, bards can heal because they use the druid spell list. But one of the things that I saw a video, I don't remember, I like to give credit to these things, but I don't remember which YouTuber it was. It was back when I was just kind of randomly watching D&D YouTube videos, and I wasn't really paying attention to my colleagues out there and making friends with them, learning which ones I like to follow, which ones I don't like to follow. We're not going to talk negative, but too much, not too much. But I was just kind of getting the YouTube D&D scene figured out back then, and so I don't remember who this was. This is one of the first ones that I watched. But they took some teenagery kids out of a game store that were used to playing 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons and had them play Old School Essentials. And one of the things that seemed kind of clunky to them at first, and then they got into it. Now, skip to the end of the story, none of them switched and said, oh, I'm going to play Old School Essentials forevermore. I'm totally converted. No, none of that happened. Okay, they went back to 5th edition, but they enjoyed their experience, and you could tell by the end of the video that they were having a lot of fun. But one of the things that seemed kind of clunky to them at first was the segregation of roles, that healer classes heal, and warrior classes fight, and arcane caster classes they have the big AoE blasty damage, and so and the roguish types, they're the ones that pick locks and find traps and do the stealth recon and stuff. So these kids were more used to the generic 5e unit character, where if you take the right feats and stuff, anybody can heal at least a little bit. Anybody can pick locks or find traps if they just took the right skills, or anybody can cast. Oh yeah, mage initiate feat, sorcerer initiate feat. I'm just going to take a dip in warlock. I'm just going to take a dip here in sorcery. People with their dip classes. So the idea that that the party actually had assigned functionality was a little bit stiff to them at first. And eventually they got the idea that, hey, this actually is super inclusive because this makes everybody special. This means that nobody is just hanging around. This means everyone is important, and there is a moment for everybody to shine. Everybody's got a job to do, and if everybody's not doing their job, then we're all screwed. So hey, there's a door here that we think might be trapped, get the thief up here. Okay, or there's combat going on, make sure our bricky tanks are in front, or it's really time, we're getting a little bit overwhelmed, it's time for some kind of AoE spell, get the arcane caster ready. And so everybody, in old school D&D, everybody has a job to do, and the group needs you, needs your job, it needs you to do your job as good as you can, as well as you can, the best you can. And so there aren't any, generic unit characters. Because, I was watching another video. These people, they're not a regular channel I subscribe to. I don't remember who they were either. But they were talking, the topic of the video was why I switched to OSE from 5e. And one of the reasons that they said was that, supposedly, 5e has all this, customization options and all this, but really it doesn't, because everybody ends up making the same generic unit character. There might be a list of 50 feats, but everybody's taking the same ones. So if everybody, oh gee, everybody's a magic initiate, and so on and so forth. And so maybe there's a list of 50 feats on that list of feats, but if everybody keeps taking the same 3 or 4, everybody in the whole world, every adventurer has, these same 3 or 4 feats, then it's really not customized. You could say it's optimized, as if that's a good thing, but it's not customized. So you end up with 5e generic unicharacters. So the anyway, enough about that. This is supposed to be about the Druid, not some kind of rant against 5e. But the Druid is a healer, and that's important because the healing options are kind of limited. And the Druid, if you're not into religion, even a fantasy religion, if you're not into, my character has to have a religion and has to follow a belief system and stuff, the Druidism, at least as it's kind of romantically portrayed in D&D, because it says in the first edition Player's Handbook, there's a little sidebar that says that the D&D Druid is hugely romanticized, and it is not, Druids are not, getting in the woods, getting naked, painting themselves purple, and conducting sacrifices. The D&D Druid is a very romanticized Druid. It's not necessarily the straight up historical Celtic Druid. So, and of course, a lot of these D&D character classes can be translated to other cultures. Like, for instance, in Asian flavored adventures that I've seen written and stuff, Druids are used for Shinto priests. So it's just really this generic universal Druid idea is kind of neat. But it is an option for characters who want to play a healer, but they don't necessarily want what they see as maybe a restrictive religion for their character that a cleric would have. And of course, bards get Druid spells too. So there's that option. So Druids. One time I was a teenager in the original Game Shop's basement. And our party was just slammed. We just, had our butts handed to us. We were all hurting near the bottom of hit points. And of course, this was first edition. So, you don't just, let's go take a long rest somewhere. No. And we were far, far away from town or civilization. We were, way out, away from civilization, having an adventure out there with dragons and all sorts of other nastiness. And, it was a big group. There were 15 to 20 people around the table. This was the legendary Ron Watson GMing. And it was, I was a teenager kid, and not very many people knew me yet. And my character, all of the people that already kind of knew each other in this big group of 15 to 20 people that regularly played around Ron's table, they'd already gotten healed. Like your buddy who's playing a cleric, hey, could you heal me? Sure. Stuff like that. So all of the good alignment clerics had used up all their healing for free. And all of the evil clerics had been like, yes, I'll heal you. I'm a cleric. Just make a donation to my church. The suggested donation. If you were here, you'd see me make air quotes around suggested. The suggested donation is. And so I think there was one evil cleric that would have healed me, but I didn't have enough gold to make his suggested donation. So there was one person in the group that played a Druid, and the Druid still had healing spells left. So I went up to the Druid, and I said, hey, I didn't really get healed when everybody else got healed. I'm down so low, you think you could help me out? And she said, well, I'm a Druid. Do you like animals? I said, I'm an elf, and I love animals. And so I got my healing. And I lived through the next few encounters. Druids make very interesting NPCs. I like DMing them. These days, now originally there was this concept that Druids needed to be true neutral, and there was this idea of the cosmic balance, and Gary Gygax is very much into it, and the Druids of Greyhawk were very much into it. Over the years in the lore, that's kind of been let go of. I think a lot of Druids, are good, and also evil Druids just make really interesting villains. There is a Mystara supplement, third party from the awesome folks at Pandius.com, where I'm not going to tell you where it is in the world because that'd be spoilers, but there's even a Druid Lich. Now, John, how is that possible? How does that even remotely tie into, the lore everybody knows and loves? Well, in the 80s when Shadowrun came out, there was this thing called a toxic nature shaman. And the thing is, if nature got polluted enough with toxic waste and stuff, then it could start to affect the natural magical aura of the place, and it would start to affect the shamans. They'd start to go a little cray-cray, or they'd just get vengeful. They were like, oh, you're destroying Mother Earth, humanity's a plague, need to wipe them out. So for whatever reason, a druid has just been pushed too far. A druid has just started to take their beliefs in an unhealthy direction, or sort of a twisted, dark direction. And I think, nature can seem like a forbidding, hostile place sometimes. In literature, that's one of the great types of conflict is protagonist versus nature. In literature, we've got different types of stories. There's protagonist versus antagonist. There's protagonist versus themselves if they have to grow or mature or something like that. There's protagonist versus society. If the protagonist is standing for standing for ideals that society is just wrong in their ideals, standing against the mainstream society. Then there's protagonist versus nature, and that would be like Jack London's Call of the Wild or To Build a Fire. That's the story. Call of the Wild is about that's about the dog that becomes wolf-like. But To Build a Fire was always, when I was in school, the great example of protagonist versus nature type of story. So nature's got all sorts of things people are afraid of, snakes and spiders. I remember watching a documentary one time about just how way up in Alaska and stuff, if you're just wandering around, you can just never come back because there's so many things out there that would kill you. And this camera, probably in a plane or a helicopter, was panning across the top of this glacier, and it was showing all the crevasses in that glacier that you fall in there, you're never coming out. Stuff like that. So evil druids are fun NPCs for me to DM. So druids these days can have all kinds of attitudes. They're not necessarily stuck in that original cosmic balance, super neutrality flavor of first edition. So druids can be fun. They're very popular in all editions of the game. And that's, another thing down here for the Loft Project character list. So tomorrow we're going to continue with the Ds because we're moving alphabetically through the Old School Essentials Advanced book. And right after Druid comes Dwergar. So tomorrow we're going to talk about the Underdark Dwarves. In the meantime, I will see you around the gaming table.